Welcome everybody. I'm on a 1 minute early. Hopefully we'll get everybody jumping on here very shortly. I'm just going to bring it up on the iPad because quite often things don't like to show up there for the first half hour sometimes. So as you're jumping in, please say hi. And we will get the party started. We've got 3 people here already. Good, good. We're just going to give it a couple minutes, guys. We're still a little early. I just want to make sure everybody gets in here. How's everybody doing today? Why don't you let me know in the comments where you're watching from? Okay. We have Michelle and Judy, Kelly, Laura, Pam. Hello, hello. Ooh, we got 9, 10. Here we go, guys. I just want to give a couple minutes for everybody. And then I'm going to explain I did a big boo-boo. How many of you get really excited about something and you get a little verbal diarrhea and you just like, blah, 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 and you say things maybe you shouldn't say? I had that moment. I'm going to share with you in just a minute. Oh, I'm glad you figured it out too, Michelle. Hi, Mavis. Live from Alberta is Elaine, and Mavis is in Ottawa. Emma, she's in the Toronto area. Pam is from Sebastian, Florida. From Texas, Pennsylvania. Wow, we've got a lot of area covered here, guys. Windsor, Ontario. Oh, and Mavis got her Happy Meal today. Whoop, whoop. I'm glad you got it. I hope you loved it. All right, guys. Okay, so I've only got about a third of the people in here. There should be about 48 people in total that should be here. I'm not even sure if everybody's figured out how to get to the group. I don't know how to make that easier. If anyone had any ideas, I know it's been a challenge for a couple people. I tried giving the link lots on my regular page. I hope everybody got the email that went out. I'm not so great with the techie stuff, so I'm hoping everybody got that. Okay, so let me share my verbal diarrhea. I got a little excited, guys. I have been so excited to do this with you. And then last night, Brittany and I jumped on together and we were like, yeah, let's do this. And without thinking, I said, what I want you to do is I want you to just comment. And during my regular lives, that is fantastic. That's absolutely what we love. But I got thinking about it last night. It started around 11 o'clock when I'm lying in bed and couldn't sleep. Carried on till 2, 3 in the morning, couldn't sleep. I'm like, oh no, what have I done? You guys are here to learn. And I love that. And you guys are paying to be here to learn. So I really, really love that you're that devoted that you want to learn it, right? The problem is in our regular lives, we're like, go ahead and comment, and that's how we'll do our giveaways. With this, for the people that aren't able to make it to the live, they're going to have problems getting answers to questions if there's all our, normal, hi, chitter chatter, whatever. So it bugged me all night. I'm like, oh no, people have paid for this and I don't want it to be distracting. I also want that as I'm crafting it, that you guys can ask a question and I'm not just seeing, all the comments for the sake of getting the prize. I want to be able to actually answer your questions. So we are going to do things a little differently. At the beginning tonight, I've got you all commenting where you're from and that you're excited to be here. And then once we start the actual project for tonight, I want it to come down to whether you like it, whether you don't like it. If you have questions, put a capital Q so I can find the questions easily, so I can make sure I'm answering all your questions. Because that's what I want most of all, is that if you guys have questions, they get answered, okay? So instead of our normal gibberish like I was encouraging last night, I want you to do that now until we get the project done. And then I'll come back either tonight, probably tomorrow. I'll do it because it's going to be probably a couple hours tonight, I imagine. I think we're here for 2 hours. unless we move along quickly. Hour and a half, 2 hours is kind of what I figured. If anyone, you know, if you decide, a bunch of you decide, hey, we need a break, just let me know. If we get enough people saying a break, we can take a break. So you can go grab a coffee, take a pee break, and then we can jump back on. You can let me know. Actually, maybe I'll try and, you know, take notice at, you know, halfway point. So that's what I want you to do. You can do all your, what do I mean by gibberish? You know what I mean by gibberish. That's Mavis. Gibberish is all our, like last night when I was saying, everybody just say hi, 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 hi. And normally, you know, or I love it and blah, 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 blah. You know, we just have our verbal diarrhea. And it was to get your name in there for the draw as many times as possible. And on my normal lives, on my regular page, that is what I love, guys. But I was thinking about it all night and I couldn't sleep. I was like, oh no, people have paid for this and you can't do this to them. And so we're gonna have our gibberish at the beginning, which is awesome and fun. And I can use that for drawing names after. But once we actually start the project, I want it to be about the project and if you have any questions. Because the main point of this is for you guys to learn and to be confident at the end on decoupaging. And if you have any questions, I want to make sure I get them answered, okay? So, to start off with, we're going to go through the kit. Some of you have ordered it, some of you haven't, and that's okay. This is what I'm going to be using. Pretty much everything that I'm going to be using is in here other than my paintbrushes, my glass jar. But for the most part, everything that I'm using is in the kit. But for those of you that did not buy the kit, that's totally okay because all you need is napkins and whatever surface you want, okay? So, we're going to start it off by opening up the box. Inside, you did get a card here, which Brittany made up for me. I was pretty proud of her for this. It says, you know, welcome for joining the group. It talks about what time you're supposed to start. It also gives you that it was supposed to be on the 4th, 5th, 6th because, yeah, it's 5th, 6th, 7th because I forgot. You know, I kept saying Monday to Wednesday, but I was giving the wrong numbers. You know, me, squirrel. It also gives you the things that you're receiving in the package. It was giving you items that you might want to have on hand to do the project. And then it had the QR code, which I was pretty impressed she figured out how to do that. So when you take a picture of the QR code, it brought you right to this page. So that was a fun little thing. It was a learning experience for Brittany. You might have also received in your package, some people received a little goodie bag. And this is kind of like a door prize. In here in Canada, our shipping is stupid. It is stupid crazy. So if I want to send you out little fun things like this, sometimes it can cost me 10 to 20 bucks, depending where it's going. So you might have received some cute little hummingbirds or some dragonflies. Who here has received that in their kit? Can you let me know? What we did is we lined up I think there was 35 kits in total, and we lined them up down the table, and we didn't know who was getting what. It was just random, and some people got these in it. Some people got buttons, okay? Some people didn't get anything. This is how we're doing our door prizes. We just picked random boxes. We are going to do draws as well, but you might have got a button in your box, and you're probably wondering, why did I have like a red button or I don't know what the other colors were. Brittany picked these out for me. But you might have received a button in your box, and that is for a door prize. You may have received this gift package. This was another door prize that we sent out. So let's see. Did anyone say that they got the buttons? So, if you got this gift package, you got one of our wooden buttons that we made that said "Be Kind" on it. You probably got some little doilies. You may have got this napkin or a different napkin. And then you may have got a piece of burlap. And it might be this kind of burlap, or it may be a finer grit kind of piece of fabric. Still a burlap, but a tighter weave one. So those were some of our door prizes. Not everybody got those, but some people did. So congratulations to those that got that. Just set that out of the way. And then everybody that got the box would have got the Fun Farmhouse tissue paper. Are you going for a bathroom? Yeah, there's nobody in there. The door's just shut just so that it's quiet because the washer was going. So you got the fun tissue paper, which you can use for decoupaging. And you've got your selection of 6 napkins, I believe it was. So we have the cute bee napkin. We had this pretty one with the script and the flower, the rose. We have the hummingbird one. One side had 1 on it, the other side had 2. These little flowers, I'm not sure what those flowers are, but there's also a rose and some butterflies. I love this napkin here. Very vintagey, it's kind of cream colored. Some cool pieces if you're into decoupaging and kind of doing a collage. There's some great pieces that you can cut apart for that. And then there was this napkin as well. Just a fun, bright, vibrant one. You would have got your 4-inch box frame, a 6-inch box frame, some coasters, which we're using these just for practicing different steps on it. They're not actually going to be coasters for me at the end. If you want to save them and actually turn them into coasters, by all means, feel free. A bottle of Mod Podge. Most of you probably have that, but I thought it was a nice addition in there, just that you had pretty much everything you needed. Okay, so to start off the night, I'm going to stick them in this cup for now. Oops. I'm going to pick a button. That's not going to work. I can't really shuffle them around in there. What do I got big enough to shuffle? Shuffle it in. Let me grab this bucket. Not that I can see through them anyways, but just kind of stir them around. I'll turn it towards you. I'll look away. You can see I'm just kind of flopping those bags around. Okay. So this is my first bag. This is the one we're going to choose for tonight. Those of you who got, is there a button in there? Oh, there is. Those of you that got the vintage gold button. These are out of my grandmother's buttons. So these are old buttons. It was a gold round ball kind of with a flat back. If you got a button like that, be sure to message me afterwards, or you can let me know in the comments. But if you received that button, let me know because I have a gift to go out to you. Okay? I'm going to set that aside. If I don't remember tomorrow night, somebody remind me about the buttons. Actually, I'll just throw them in tomorrow night's bin so I remember. There we go. All right, so I'm going to read through the comments real quick. I hope nobody threw out their button and thought, what the heck do I need that for? It's for a prize. Okay, let's see. We've got more people that jumped in. Chrissy is here. Yes, lots of people in the group. Wendy is here. Linda's here from New York. Welcome, welcome. Christine is from New Hampshire. I've always wanted to go there. Your daughter-in-law is excited to see what you're going to learn. That's great. Did you invite her over? Did you invite her over? And are you having a decoupage party while we're here? Judy is here in Delta. She's like 8 minutes away from me, maybe 7 minutes away from me. Sandy Elliott is with us. April is with us. April, did you see that you won last night? Congratulations on that. Mel is with us. Kelly is with us. Kelly had a little problem finding the class. She was one of the ones that I was like, I hope I get everybody in here because we were having a little hard time getting Kelly in here. All right, I think I've got everything. Any questions to start off with? Ooh, from Vancouver Island, Sandy Elliott. And Martha is from Bend, Oregon. Okay, I haven't heard of that place yet. Oregon I've heard of, but. Any questions to start off with before we grab our first things? Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, for those of you that have jumped on late, last night I said I just want a whole bunch of gibberish. Hi, Karen. I just want a whole bunch of gibberish, and that's how I'm going to draw names. it stressed me out beyond belief thinking about it last night. We're going to have to do that at the beginning while I was doing this whole spiel. And then once we get into the project, we're going to go into just talking about the project, because I want those of you that, you know, well, all of you that have paid to be here, I want you to make sure that your questions get answered. And yes, you can still order that kit, April, if you'd like to. There's still, I think, 2 or 3 of them left on the website, but that is all. Do we need anything besides a bottle? It depends what you want to do. It's really hard to say what else you're going to need. Besides the kit, you're definitely going to need paintbrush for your Mod Podge. You might need a sponge and some paints. It depends on what you're doing. We're going to cover a lot of stuff, and I didn't know if you want to actually do a project with me or if you just want to sit back and learn. This is my first time doing a live workshop like this. I've done workshops in person, but I haven't done one like this before. So once we get started, if we can just talk about the projects this way, I make sure all the questions get answered. If you're asking a question, give me a capital Q, and then I can find the questions easily in the comments, okay? All right, so I'm going to start off with pulling out my coasters. Okay, so I've got a wood coaster here. Let's see if we can get this camera. I don't care if it cuts off the top of my head. I'm more interested in you seeing the actual project. So, all right, so I've got a wood coaster here, and I'm going to start off by putting some white paint on it. Everybody has heard, I'm sure, when you're decoupaging, keep it light and bright, right? Because it's going to make the colors pop on your napkin. And yes, I can do it on dark, and we are going to cover that this workshop. But for the basics, we're going to do, like everybody's teaching you, light and bright. So I'm just grabbing some white chalk paint, and I'm going to paint my surface. Now, you can use chalk paint, you can use acrylic paint. It really doesn't matter. I've seen people do latex. Now, I have tried latex. I'm not a fan of it. First of all, it gives off a nasty smell when you're heating it up. If you're doing the ironing method, it's also kind of plasticky. So sometimes the latex paint itself will lift off of your surface. So I don't recommend the latex, but I have seen some people say that they use it. I love chalk paint for it. Chalk paint is something, for those of you that don't know, it has some grip to it, okay? It's very airy. It's like it says, it's chalky, right? So it's got negative molecules or negative space in there, basically, so that it grips really well to your other surfaces, but also when you're decoupaging, your Mod Podge and your napkin kind of blend into it really well as too. So I recommend a good chalk paint. Actually, I shouldn't even say a good chalk paint, just any chalk paint. Okay? So now that I've got that on there, I'm going to dry this up. Anyone got any questions so far? You're just going to sit back and learn? That's kind of what I figured most people will do, is sit back and learn. And then if they wanted to do that project, they could kind of watch it on the replay. And then they can do that project. This way, you're not using your surfaces for something at the end and you go, geez, I wish I would have saved that surface for something else. It's totally up to you, but that's kind of what I would do if it was me. So I'm just drying it up. If you were doing this on your own, you can just let it air dry, sit back, go for a coffee, come back when it's dry, or you can grab your hair blower or your heat tool and you can dry it up, okay? All right, so there my chalk paint is on. Now, this is a good example. Sometimes when you use chalk paint, you will find that you get little chunks in there. And I want you to know not to worry about that. Chalk paint is a good surface that you can lightly sand back. So if you get a surface like that, you could try and flick it off with your finger, but your best bet is to just take a sandpaper and just sand it off. It's that easy, okay? I'm going to set that brush in water because I'm going to go through a lot of brushes tonight. Only because I don't want to take the time to rinse them all and wipe them off. And typically, one paintbrush would do you. You could easily do your chalk paint. You can rinse off your brush, just dry it off really well, and then use your Mod Podge. But for the sake of time, I'm going to keep rolling with different brushes, and I have a ton of them here. So now I'm going to grab my Mod Podge. And I'm going to talk to you about Mod Podge here. Mod Podge, some people love it, some people don't, okay? I love Mod Podge. I don't have a problem with it at all. Some people say it's really thick. Some people say it's too thin. I honestly have found over the time and using different Mod Podges that I think it depends on each bottle. I have opened up a fabric one this week. Usually it's thin like this is. I opened up a brand new one. Was it this week or last week, girls? I think it was last week in our sorority. And it was thick. It was very thick. So I was having to wet down my brush or add water to my Mod Podge to thin it out. But that's the good thing about Mod Podge is it is water-based. So you can just thin it out with water if it's too thick. Okay? If you don't have Mod Podge, you can use Elmer's glue. I don't like it quite as much. I find quite often it leaves a stickiness to it. But it can be used. You can also use different top coats. Yeah, last week for the chicken shoes. Do I have a favorite sander and brush? Yeah. Okay, my favorite sanders are these guys right here. They're called Micro Gators sanders. They're from Amazon. I can look up the link and I can drop it in here after. Let me grab a notepad and I will write myself a note to do that. We'll do it in a giveaway book. Just give me 1 second here and I can write down stuff like that as we go. Okay. So, Gator sanders. I can drop the links for them. If you don't want to use my link, by all means, you don't have to, but it just helps you look it up and know what you're looking for. Some people have said that they have found, it's not the same brand, but it's the same style. They have found them occasionally in the dollar stores. It really doesn't matter what the brand is. As long as, for me, it's got to have the finger groove here and the finger grooves here. And that's because I have a touch of arthritis in my fingers. And I like how this fits in my hand. I like that it's squishy and it's soft. It's also not sandpaper on all 4 sides like the typical sanding blocks. It's hard on your hands. I like that the little strips are Velcroed and they can just peel off and on. My paintbrushes, my favorite paintbrushes for Mod Podging or decoupaging is this guy right here. And, oh, where's my little ones gone? And these guys right here. Sometimes I use this guy here. And actually all 3 of these are from Amazon. I do have favorite paintbrushes for other projects like these guys, my Zens, which are like, you know, $8 to $10 a shot, but I wouldn't use that for those. But these are my typical favorites. I just get them from Amazon. I can drop the links for the brushes too, if you'd like after. But you buy them in like a 12-pack. They're cheap. They last really well as long as you wash them nicely. Don't let your paints and your glues dry on them for too long. I've done it overnight. It's still okay. But more than 2 days and it's just going to fray your edges. It's going to get a little rough. So I'll put the link for those as well if anyone's interested. Any other questions? Oh, you found your sander at Home Depot. Okay. Is it the same process for ceramic coasters? Yes, it is. That's what I should have grabbed. I should have grabbed a ceramic coaster. It is. Okay, I wanted to show you the wet surface. It's drying on me now, so I'm going to go and add a little more. And I'm going to stick with this now. And not get caught up in the questions until after I get this one on, just because I want to show it to you wet. I'm doing paint. See? Now I'm talking. I'm talking too much. Let me dry this up. Excuse me. See, I get distracted. I'm sorry. I want to do my best on teaching you guys this stuff, so I'm trying to answer the questions, but then I dipped in the wrong thing. So, move on to another brush. Let's dry this up one more time. And it's okay if you mess up. You can layer Mod Podge and chalk paint. It's fine. It's totally, totally fine. It's a very forgiving thing. Yeah, blooper reel. Martha, I am located in Eastern Ontario. Okay, so here's what I'm going to teach you right now. This wasn't supposed to happen till tomorrow on texture, but seeing how I made a blooper, I'm going to show you something. Have you seen people use crackle before? I'm just going to grab it out of here. There's many kind of crackles out there on the market. My favorite crackle is this crackle from Folk Art. Okay. I have done it with Elmer's glue. It works good. It takes a little longer to dry. It's not as good for outdoors. The heat, the sun kind of reactivates the glue sometimes and it causes a little flaking and stuff, but I have done it. Another one is Mod Podge. Did you know you could crackle with Mod Podge? So what that is a layer of chalk paint, then a layer of glue, and before it's totally dry, you put on your paint, and then when you dry it, it gives you crackle. And you can decoupage over that. So I'm just going to make sure this is totally dry, but I'm still going to show you the wet method on here. But there you go. It's a cheaper alternative for crackle. It does work better than using the Elmer glue. I still prefer my other one, but... Oh, you've never seen crackle with Mod Podge? I have done it before, but it's not my favorite. It's just, it doesn't... The crackle lines are kind of different. They're kind of a coarser line than what it is when I use the other crackle. And then some people buy this expensive two-step crackle, which looks phenomenal, but I'm kind of like, why? Why spend that much money on crackle when you can do it with so many cheaper things? Like, save your money for the important stuff, like the bling and the nice napkins and whatever, right? If you can save money on some of these staple things like your paintbrush, your Mod Podge, you know, your cheaper crackles, that's what I do. I prefer to save money when I can so I can splurge on the other things. And we all know I love to shop. Okay, so while this is wet, I'm going to grab a napkin. And I'm going to make sure to remove the 3 backer layers. I can usually do it just by scuffing my nail to it. If you can't get it off, that is 3 layers, 2 pulled off together. Sometimes they don't like to, so then what I do is I grab a little piece of painter's tape or Scotch tape, whichever. I stick one to one side, I stick one to the other, squeeze them together, and that will separate your napkin as well, okay? That was just showing you on the backer sheets. Now the only thing is if you're using painter's tape or Scotch tape, anything like that, when you're adding it to your napkin, don't put it in a corner that you really want that design, because there is a chance it might rip, okay? So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to lay it on. You can cut it out first if you want, but I find it easier just to lay it on and then lightly tap it into place, okay? Try not to smooth it. It's very, very tempting, and I do it quite often, my fingers, and I just smudge it on. You have to have a very delicate hand if you're doing it that way. Sometimes it does rip. It happens to me, but it is very tempting just to smooth it on. What I do recommend is do as I say, not as I do. I do recommend grabbing some cellophane, grabbing a plastic bag like a grocery bag, but those are hard to find around here lately. And then you can just smooth it on using that. If you find your saran wrap is getting tacky from the glue seeping through your napkin, because that's what they're meant for, right? They're supposed to absorb moisture. So sometimes the glue will come through. And if you find your napkin or your plastic is getting a little tacky and it's gripping, then find a clean spot, flip it over, okay? And then you can smooth it out, okay? Then at this point, I like to dry it up a bit. Seen someone use wood glue today. Okay, I haven't seen it done with that, but that makes sense. Where can you find good quality napkins? On my website. Good quality napkins. Okay, I have bought some from the dollar store that are good. I've bought some from the dollar store that are horrible. Sometimes when I'm decoupaging with dollar store ones, the colors bleed. Sometimes the napkin itself is just too thin and it's just really hard to work with. But most of the time I find that it's the colors that bleed is my problem with theirs. Most of my good napkins I order in from Germany, but if you're doing that, you have to order a large amount of them, like $300 or $400 at a time. One of my places I have to order $800 worth of napkins at a time. But if I'm shopping locally, I love, here in Canada, we have HomeSense, we have Winners, we have Marshalls. I think you would have, in the States, what are they called? You have Michael's. You have Winners in the States. There's another one in the States. But places like that, Hallmark gift stores have great napkins. Any of those kind of places is good quality napkins. But like I said, some dollar store napkins work just fine. You love how I show it. Guys, I'm real. I'm not, even in my reels and stuff that I make, you're not going to see me edit things out that are imperfect. It's always going to be the bloopers too, because I want you to know, like, everybody makes mistakes. So many people edit their videos out and show you, you know, oh, see, it's fine. And they'll show from a distance if it's not perfect, or they'll touch it up afterwards before they do their finished shots because they're embarrassed that they made a mistake. I'm as real as it gets. If there's a mistake, I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you how to fix it. Okay? Christine's here. Welcome, Christine. Ceramic coasters. Okay, yes. They're done the same way. The only thing I would say differently is make sure you are using, Dollar Store has a cleaner called Amaze or Totally Awesome. Wash it down with that first, or wash it down with vinegar first, or take rubbing alcohol, or if you have alcohol wipes for like glasses and stuff, take something like that to it first. Same way with glass bottles. You'll want to do that. Other than that, yeah, it totally works the same. If you're going to put these tiles on the wall, like as a backsplash, make sure you are using the outdoor formula Mod Podge or a good sealer. And even if I'm using the outdoor Mod Podge, I would probably put a good sealer spray over top, but make sure it's a non-yellowing one, okay? Just because if it's a backsplash or something like that, or a coaster, you're going to want to make sure that it's really waterproof. Now, Mod Podge isn't bad for, like, if I was doing this as a regular coaster. After I put 3 coats on, it is pretty good. That it shouldn't buckle and peel and stuff like that. But if it was going to be something that's going to get soaked down on a regular basis, I would want to put a really good sealer on it. So I just take the sander, and then sometimes there's this little bit of glue residue on the edge. You can just drag your nail along it, and it comes off. If you don't have a sander, you can use a nail file. You can use your regular pieces of sandpaper. You can use those sanding sponges. I don't have one handy because I don't like them. I usually have one here to show, but I don't even think I have one handy to show. But a regular sanding sponge will work well too. Okay, good top coats. My favorite top coat. Give me a second. I will go grab one. One other one somewhere too. Oh, okay. Yep, that's. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. Let's talk top coats real quick. Okay, so if it's outdoor, you've never used, somebody said they've never used plastic wrap to smooth out the napkin. Okay. It's what most people teach you. Cheryl, if it's Cheryl and Mavis, you guys watch me all the time. You know, I just tend to use my fingers. It's a light touch. I do that. But if you're trying really hard to not tear your napkin, it is better to use a plastic bag. But like I said, it's practice what I preach, not as I do. because it is so tempting just to take your fingers and smooth it out, but it does rip often, and you guys see my bloopers when I do them. Top coats. This is one of my favorites. I like matte finishes on most things. So Rust-Oleum clear coat in a matte. It does come in satin. It also comes in gloss. That is something that I use 3 coats of that if it's going outdoors, 2 coats if it's indoors, and it's something that's going to be washed all the time, like often. Yeah, that pretty much covers that one. This is something that I would use on glass bottles, on, trying to think when all I use this. If it's an outdoor piece that's going to get a lot of beading on it, I might use this one. It's a little more expensive to buy. It doesn't matter the brand, sorry. But it's engine enamel and it's clear. Right now, it's hard to find it in the stores. I don't know. I can't imagine a lot of people spraying their engines right now, but maybe. But that's the clear coat. It's going to give you a really good top coat. You still need 3 sprays of it, but that's for like outdoors. It's non-yellowing. It's UV resistant. It's a really good top coat. Then there's this one, and I've used it a couple times. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't, guys. I'm going to be honest. I don't know why, but I don't find there's a consistency with this one for some reason. It's Mod Podge Matte. It's a clear acrylic spray. I don't like it for outside. I find things still peel and they still yellow. But for indoors, sometimes it's worked good and sometimes it hasn't. And I really don't know why, because I could do, you know, one can would be great. The next can isn't. I have no clue why. But that's the 3 typical top coats, unless I'm doing something like this. And then this is covered with epoxy. Or if you've seen my great big dish that we did that had the bunnies on it, that was covered with epoxy. So that's a great top coat option as well. You can also top coat with DuraClear, which is going to give you a nice, really glassy surface. It's going to take, again, 3 coats of this. It's very watery when it goes on, but it gives you a good surface. Not so great for things that you're going to wash often, though. Triple thick will give you a really good glassy finish as well, but it's going to give you like a thick, it's a very thick product that goes on, and it's, I use it usually for dimension and stuff. If I want certain pieces to pop, then I do this on it. Okay, so that's kind of my top coats that I use a lot. Don't think I'm missing any. All right. Home Goods, TJ Maxx. That's the one I was thinking of in Home Goods. Yeah. Hobby Lobby. Does Hobby Lobby carry napkins? I've never been in a Hobby Lobby yet, guys. It's my dream thing to do. Let's see what else we've got here in the questions. Okay, that's it? That's all? Okay. Anyone else freezing? Okay, before we continue, we'll ask that. Anybody else having problem with freezing? Anybody? Nope? Okay. So, Connie, what I recommend you do is jump out and come back in. Hopefully that fixes it for you. If not, then you might have an internet problem. Okay? Okay. So, now that this is done, you're going to need to top coat it. So, once it's dry, you're going to grab your Mod Podge, and you're going to start from the center of your surface, and you're going to go outwards. If you start from the outside edge and push in, you might end up lifting up your napkin, depending on if it's all well sealed on the edges. By doing it from the inside out, you're pushing out any air bubbles that there might be, and you're just making sure that it's going to lay flat. Okay, you jumped out and came back and you're good? Oh no, yeah, I don't know why, because I think everybody else is having no issues. So just start from your center and work out when you're doing your top coats, okay? Mod Podge themselves tell you to leave an hour in between coats. I find if you dry it with the dryer, you can usually stick a second coat on. If it's going to be something that I want to make sure it's absolutely perfect and it has no flaws, like I'm giving it as a gift or I'm planning on selling it, then I tend to wait and leave it sometimes even overnight to make sure it's fully cured before I do the second coat or the third coat. Okay? But quite often in the lives, you'll see that people just go ahead and we dry it quickly and we move on. And sometimes that works great. And sometimes the next morning you wake up and you can see that it's lifted. So that's it. It's going to be hazy, but when it dries, it's going to be clear. Okay? I don't know why I'm closing that because I'm going to keep using it. All right, so that is my wet method. I've made myself those sticky notes to try and keep on, to keep going in the right order. When you Mod Podge on top, it gets full of wrinkles sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it does. I'm looking to see if I've got any right now. I do have some. I've got a little wrinkle right here. And I've got a little wrinkle up here. I don't know if you guys can see it. See in the camera, it doesn't always show. But there is a couple wrinkles. Also down at the bottom here, I've got a little bit of bubbles going on. Can you see that? That tends to happen when I do wet surface. So if my Mod Podge is wet and I'm applying my napkin and then I top coat it, it just seems to happen, guys. Some projects, I don't mind if there's texture. Like tonight, right before this one, I don't know if you saw the reel, but I did this guy really fast. Like really fast. I did this project in less than 10 minutes. He's got texture. I did him wet on wet, kind of like the napkin onto the wet Mod Podge. He's got texture, and I really don't care because he would typically be furry, and so I think the texture adds to it. It also, if you're looking to make your pieces vintage, rustic, make them look old, you're going to want your wrinkles, okay? If you're looking for something new and pristine, I really don't recommend the wet surface if you can get away from it. If you can do the ironing surface, the ironing method, sorry, that's what I would recommend, okay? That being said, I better turn on my iron. Let's get my little iron started here. Okay. Don't fall over. Okay. So next we're going to do the iron method. This says saran, but I'm going to use the backup one of these after. So, okay. So, again, I'm going to paint it first. Let me just grab my brush here. If you were to apply this over top, like your napkin, and not paint this first, you're going to find that you'll get wood grain through it. It's going to be a little darker in color. Also, sometimes you might find that tannins from your wood, like any knots and stuff like that, might cause yellowing that comes through. It can also happen when you paint it. I'm just going to tell you. Sometimes you can Mod Podge it and put your napkin on, put your top coats on, and it looks great. And then 3 days later, the knot will show up. So if you're doing it on any wooden surfaces that you have at home, like found surfaces, and it's got a knot in it, you're going to want to make sure you prime that. So you're going to grab something like Zinsser, or Zinsser is the one that I usually use. It's Smelly Bins. I think it's just B-I-N or B-I-N-Z maybe. They're good primers, and that's typically, this is the only time that I stick a primer on that I can think of offhand, is if there's a knot in my surface and I don't want that tannin to bleed through. Stuff like this, it's Baltic birch. I would just go ahead and paint it, and I've never had any problems. Sometimes there's a smoky residue around the edges. If you're worried about that, then you're going to want to sand your edges first, just to make sure you don't get any of that. But most of my projects are rustic looking, so I'm okay with all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to apply my chalk paint again. If you're using a chalk paint that is very thick and you're finding that you have a lot of brush strokes, just give it a light sanding first. You can use anything from a 150 to a 220 grit sandpaper. See, I have a chunk right there too. If I can take it out or smooth it out, I will do it when it's wet. But if I miss it, then I just hit it with the sandpaper after. Oops, now I got fluff. Where did I get that from? So to avoid, I know this is a painting tip and not a decoupaging tip really, but to avoid brush strokes, if you go one direction when you're painting it on and then go in your opposite direction, you're going to have less brush strokes too. Pam does the iron method. I love the iron method. I do it a lot. I'm also going to show you how to apply it using a saran wrap or a cling wrap. I'm not a fan of it. Some people love it, but I will show you how to do that as well. Let me just clean up my edges here because that's going to take a while to dry. So how are we doing so far? Is anybody learning something they didn't know yet, or do most people know this stuff? I don't want to spend too long on stuff that you know, but I want to make sure that we cover everything, so. Good info? Okay. All right, got a little bit too much right there. Okay, so for the dry method, I'm going to take my Mod Podge again. I'm going to apply a relatively good coat. So it's going to be glossy looking. If there's any dry spots, you're going to want to make sure you hit it again with the Mod Podge or your top coat, whatever it is that you're using, just to make sure it's a good shiny coat on there. Also, I should tell you that my favorite Mod Podge, guys, is the matte. And although sometimes I would like to have a glossy finish on things, I still recommend the matte for most projects. And the reason is I have the outdoor one, I have the fabric one, I have the gloss one. Like, I have pretty much every Mod Podge they've made. I've even had all the glitter ones. I gave those to Brittany though because I never use them. I have like almost every Mod Podge I think they've made. And most of them dry kind of tacky. There's a gloss one right there. I've tried them all out. I followed the instructions. I've even chatted with, got another piece of fluff right there. I don't know where the lint's falling from. It's not dirty in here. I don't know where the lint's falling from. Oh, you like the fabric one best. Now that's interesting. Okay. So would you use fabric one on wood surfaces? Or you just work with fabric more? I find most items, especially the gloss, it stays really tacky. In fact, I decoupaged an egg when I had my napkin club, which was, Mavis, how many years ago was that we had the napkin club? God, it was before COVID. And that egg, I took it out the other day, I have it in a little plastic egg box kind of thing for my Easter decorations. And I took it out because I was just thinking of all the different things that I've decoupaged over the years. And I took it out and it's still kind of tacky. And I'm like, seriously, this has been years. And it's never really got rid of that tackiness. And I found it on quite a few projects that it does that. So gloss is not my favorite. Now, with that being said, because I have a great big bottle of gloss, I do use it. But then I make sure I put a top coat over top of it to get rid of that tackiness. Yeah, it was that long ago. Better than fabric tack. I've never used fabric tack. Okay, so now my Mod Podge is dry. And you can see it's shiny. It does have some brush strokes, and I'm not worried about that. But it is dry, and it is not tacky. It's like super silky smooth and shiny, okay? I'm going to take my napkin. I'm just using the same one over again, just to show you how it's done. Oh, you can see here I've got some drips on the edge. That will make it harder for sanding off. So just kind of clean up any major drips that you have on your edges. Otherwise, it kind of gums up your sander, okay? So then I'm just going to stick my napkin on top of that dry Mod Podge. You get my tummy out of the way here. I'm going to stick that butterfly pretty centered. And then I'm going to grab some parchment paper. So you want to make sure you're using parchment paper and not wax paper. I just buy it from the dollar store. I'm not worried about brands and stuff. That butterfly shifted on me, didn't it? See if I can turn it maybe. I don't know why I'm being picky, but no. I like it better that way. Okay. You're going to want to make sure you use parchment paper, not wax paper. And then you're going to grab your yarn, and it can be your regular household yarn, or if you're fortunate enough, just a second, my cord's twisted here. If you're fortunate enough to have one of those mini yarns, which I love, Wendy gave it to me, one of my followers in here, she sent it to me as a gift. I love it. But you're just going to take that and you're just going to run it over top. Don't really hold it in one spot. Keep it kind of moving. If you're using your household yarn and you're wondering what temperature to use, I just stick it on high. And the same way this guy here, he doesn't have any temperature gauge. He's just hot. There's tons of information, yes. Tons and tons. Okay. And here we go, guys. I did a blooper. See that little edge? It didn't get covered, but I can fix that after. So then I'm going to take my sander. Always make sure you're taking your sander, guys, from the top and going down. Top, down. If you go back and forth, you're going to lift it up, okay? So top, down. Always. I've watched some people that go back and forth, and I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it always just, it makes me cringe because I know that it can tear your napkin. Always go top down. And there we go. So that's done. Now I'm going to show you how to fix up a little boo-boo, because I am known for showing that. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of my Mod Podge again. I've got 2 bottles on the go here. I don't even know why. One on each side of me here. I'm going to grab a little bit of Mod Podge, and I'm going to put it on that corner that I missed. Okay? Then I'm going to come in here, and I know it's got to be the dark purpley area. I'm literally just going to rip this flower and just tear a little piece here. I know I want that dark part. I don't care if it lines up perfectly or not because it's just a tiny spot. Even if I ripped somewhere in the middle, that's how I would fix it. And I would take it, and while it's wet, I just tap it on, okay? I'm just going to dry up that corner, and you're not even going to notice that there was a boo-boo. And there we go. It's all fixed. You see that? I don't have my glasses on, but there might be a tiny hair of a line I might have missed off just by a fraction there, but it kind of blends in anyways because of, sorry, it's opposites here. The white line's through here, so that tiny little white line isn't too bad, but if I would have shifted up a little more, I wouldn't have had that. Okay, and then again, you would put your top coat on. I'm not going to put my top coat on right now. I'm going to show you this one because it's going to work out the same. Oop, this is still tacky, but you can see how it's starting to clear. That is one top coat. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying this. And yes, I wanted to make sure that there is like 1 year of watch the replays over and over again, because quite often when we're learning new things, like right now, I'm learning watercolors. And I love to save all the videos because I'm like, I get partway through it and I'm like, why did that not quite work the same? Or, you know, what was her technique on that? And so I want to make sure that you have this group for the year that you can keep going back and watching. Okay, so there it is. It's all done. It can be left matte if you're doing this on a card or something like that. If you're doing a card, let's see. Here's one. You can make pretty cards, and then there's no top coat. It just feels like paper because cards typically are just paper, right? So I don't worry about top coating, stuff like that. But if you're going to be using this for anything that's going to get, you know, even dusty and you want to dust it off, you're better to put a top coat on it. Yep, if you're just using a decoration, one would be fine. But if you plan on ever having to wipe it off with a baby wipe or something like that, you really should do 2 or more coats, okay? Chrissy loves that napkin. Chrissy, were you one of the ones that ordered the kit? Because this is in the kit. I'm looking to see if there's any other questions. I think we've got it. Oh, you use the glitter as a top coat on Christmas and winter decorations. I've done that, and I just don't use it often because I have so much glitter. It's easier for me just to put some regular glitter on. Oh, you were too late? No. You can still order the kit so that when you're watching the replays, if you want the kit, not everybody has the kit. Not everybody wants the kit. But if you do want the kit, I think there is 3 left. I could probably make up a few more if we run out. But I think there's 3 left sitting over there right now that are ready to go out. So you can craft along with the replays if you want. Or if you have other projects that you just really love that napkin and you want to use that napkin and the other ones, of course, because it's a little pricey for 1 napkin. But we do have the kits still available. Okay. So, again, if you're using this for anything that's going to have water, make sure you're putting it on. Rice paper. That's a good question, Mavis. I don't know. Rice paper, as far as I know, it's the same technique. I have not tried rice paper yet. Remind me, Mavis. Mavis is in my sorority. Our sorority is our private membership group. So I don't know how many of us are in there right now, but it's actually closed right now that we're not accepting new members. But that's going to be one of our topics because I did get in that rice paper of the little Highland cows. It's not near me right now, but we're going to be doing rice paper because we're going to be doing some more decoupaging projects in there. We're going to be doing the epoxy coating on decoupaging rocks. We're going to be decoupaging hats. We're going to be decoupaging some canvas bags if I can ever find a nice one. For some reason, I'm having a hard time with that. We did the running shoes last week inside the group, which they turned out, I think, really stinking cute. Some people think they're hideous. And you have the right to that opinion. You honestly do. I will not be offended. But I have chickens right now, so I thought these are super cute. But yeah, we're going to have a lot more decoupage projects in there too. So what is the question you work with? What is the question? I work with it a lot. I don't know. I don't know what you're saying there. Sorry. Learning rice paper now, it's not as fragile and it's less likely to tear. I've heard that, but I've never used it. I've used tissue papers and napkins and printer paper. Like I've printed off not SVGs, what do you call them? PDFs. I've done that kind of stuff, but I've never done the rice paper. But, about rice paper. Yeah, we're going to do rice paper in the sorority. I just haven't done it yet. It's coming. We got a lot more stuff to cover in that sorority, guys. A lot. I don't know why I keep closing that because we're going to be using it all night. Okay, so I'm going to do the back side of this and show you quickly the saran wrap method. So again, I'm going to paint it white. We're at the 1 hour mark. Does anyone need a break or should we just keep on going? Oh, I don't like this brush. I don't know where this brush came from. It just feels funny in my hand. That's not one of my good brushes. I should go through all my brushes and toss out the ones I don't like or send them to Brittany. because they are not my favorites, some of them. There we go. Does anyone need a break? I was thinking about that. I don't know what to say. Typically we open it up every couple months, but I was thinking about opening it up for you guys in here, anyone that was in here that wanted to join. There is benefits to joining sorority. I'm not trying to convince you to join. It's just our fun private group. It's more like workshops where we get to chat with each other and ask questions, more than on the regular page, because there's just a lot of action needing. Okay, everybody's good. We don't need a break. Okay. So it's usually 1 hour a week. Sometimes it's more. Last week week before I was sick and we didn't get one, but I usually try and make up for it. And it's a different topic all the time. It's not always decoupaging. Sometimes it's epoxy stuff. Sometimes it's, we've done stencils, we've done stamping, it could be anything and everything, but I do have a lot of decoupage projects coming up in there, over the next couple months. It's $24.97 a month. And, trying to decide. Typically it wouldn't be opening up again until September if there was space available. But I might open it up. We'll see on the 3rd day. We'll see. I'll have to take a look at the numbers and stuff like that. I don't like the group to get too big. That's the big thing. Yeah, Martha, you did. You joined the sorority, and I don't even know how you did that because it's supposed to be closed. I saw that the other night. I was like, how did she do that? Because on the website, if you stroll through our website, it shouldn't be visible. But Martha did get into the sorority. So yeah, Martha, if you don't want to be in the sorority, you can cancel yours. But sorority members get these kind of classes free whenever we do them. Yeah, we're going to work on a card. Definitely. I'll show you how to do it on cardstock. Actually, we got a couple projects using paper that we're going to be doing over the next few days. Okay, so we've got it painted. We're going to grab some saran wrap or cling wrap or whatever brand you just happen to have. Ours is Glad cling wrap is this one. But like I said, you can use any kind you want, okay? So you're going to want to grab a piece that's a little bit bigger than your surface. And you're just going to stretch it over top, okay? Try and get out as many wrinkles as possible. I personally don't like this method. I never have. I don't think I ever will. It's just not my favorite. Let me see if I can do it down here better. First of all, I have a hard time getting the wrinkles out of the cling wrap to start off with. Second of all, I don't like the idea of melting plastic. I have problems with my lungs to start off with. Okay, let's lie it down the best we can. I have problems with my lungs in the first place. The thoughts of melting plastic to attach things together really kind of freaks me out, because even if you cannot smell it, you got to know there's some toxins going on. Not that I'm a health freak or anything like that. I have some bad habits that, I probably shouldn't do too. But melting plastic just seems like a big no-no to me. But I will show you because some people have asked how to do it. Okay, so your painted surface, your cling wrap, your napkin, your parchment paper. Again, don't use wax paper because it makes a mess. And then you're going to iron this on. And technically, the heat of it is melting the plastic and making the two surfaces join together. But I'm not a fan of this idea. I'm just going to tell you this. Does anybody love this method? Have you used this method? Have you heard of this method? And what were your thoughts on it? Okay, so here it is. It is totally smooth. It looks beautiful, just like when we do the other iron-on method. You go around and you check your edges, just like you should with your iron-on method, but I didn't do that. I knew it was on there. But go around, check your edges. You can see I'm lifting up a little bit here, so you should iron that again. Any spots that you see lifting, just run over it again. I've got a little Mod Podge or something on the bottom of this. I'm going to have to clean it. There's a little bit of drag to it. And then again, the same as, you know, as if it was just the Mod Podge. You can sand your edges down. But I don't know why somebody would love this method better than using a top coat or a Mod Podge. I don't understand it. It can't be cheaper. It's not more convenient, I don't find. I think it's just something that somebody came up with, as in it's a new way to do it, and it became popular just because it was a new way of doing it. Yeah, it's the whole idea of melting plastic. Like, it's got to put toxins off. I don't know that for certain, but I'm thinking it can't be good. But it does go on perfectly smooth, which is my hot side. This one is. I'm running my finger just to test it. It's not lifting at all. It did adhere down really well, but I'm just not a fan of the idea of melting the plastic down. I used saran wrap that time. Cling wrap, sorry. It's the same stuff. Yeah, I won't be melting plastic. I just want to show you all the tips and techniques, but it's not my recommended way. I also know that sometimes I've tried that too. I don't have the best of luck with that. I don't understand the water slide technique either all that much, because I'm just like, it just makes it a little more difficult to me. But if you can't get Mod Podge, then like typically if you're a crafter, you would have white glue, like Elmer's glue, or a glue stick. You can use a glue stick for that. You can put a glue stick on there if you really were in a pinch. You can put your napkin on top. You can set your parchment paper down and you can heat that up. You could use any of your top coats. Like, I can decoupage using Duraclear. It's a more expensive alternative, but it can be done. I can use clear coat or top coat. Like, there's so many other things. I just can't imagine why you would melt plastic. But that's just me, I guess. I don't understand it, so. But I did show you how to do it. I just won't be showing that one too often. Kathy, that's okay. You can always watch the replay, hun. Okay, so that was our wet method, our dry method, like our ironing method, and our saran wrap method. Okay? And you can see that's one coat, and it's got a nice sheen to it. Even though it's matte, it still has a nice sheen to it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you tonight is, because we're at 1 hour. Okay, we can keep going. Everybody's still good, right? If I get too long-winded, let me know. The next thing is bottles. When it comes to bottles, let's talk about for a second here. Let me get all these into a water jug here so they don't all harden here. And I just throw Mod Podge and glue ones in the water together. I'm not that picky. And instead of cleaning this, I'm just going to roll this up. And I'll grab another one. Just to save time. There we go. I know it looks dirty, but it's stained. It's cleaner than the other one. Okay, let's talk for a second about why I started Mod Podging in the first place, or decoupaging in the first place. So I was a very young mom, I was 17 when I became a mom. Actually, I was 18 by the time she was born, but I was 17 when I got pregnant. And I had a job, but money was tight. So what I loved about decoupaging is that I could go and I could take my pickle jars or my relish jars or, you know, bottles and stuff that you find, you know, at garage sales, at recycling places, when you're dropping off your recycling. Check and see if there's any funky, cool jars. As long as they're not disgusting, you know what I mean? I don't want you to be a garbage picker, but... but it was a great surface that you can use to make money. So what I started out with was just painting jars. And this was just a regular mason jar, painted it with chalk paint, tie some twine around the top, took some sandpaper to the front to where it was raised up, where it says, you know, your whatever brand of jar. And these things here, I could sell for 10 or 15 bucks. Easy, no problem. I could sell a pile of these. In fact, I did. That's what got me loving crafting. Then it became things like this. Now this one I did a couple years ago. It's an old soup can. Like, I sold so many soup cans and tomato or ketchup cans because, you know, when money's tight, you buy your great big can of ketchup and you fill up your bottles over and over again. It was a great way to make money using things that I had around the house. Then it became decoupaging rocks. I wasn't putting epoxy on them. I was just putting many coats of top coat, and I would sell rocks. Good money. All it cost me was a napkin. A napkin, some top coat, you know what I mean. But then mason jars got a little cooler. Then they brought out these cool things for us. So we would paint our mason jars, and you could buy caps like this. Before that, I was having to cut a hole in the top if I wanted to turn this into a jar or something like, you know, for your coins or whatever. But these came out. And then I was really happy when Kleenex came out. Did you guys get Kleenexes when they came out like this? They're not like this around here anymore, but when Kleenexes came out like this, if you can still find these are an awesome thing to sell at markets. So you take your Kleenexes out of the box, out of the tube, you leave them all rolled up like this, you slide them into your tall mason jar. Piece of lint again. And then these kind of lids, which you can pick up at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, whatever, it becomes your napkin dispenser or your Kleenex dispenser. Have you guys seen those? And now, of course, we would decoupage them and stuff like that. But this is where, you know, this is where my love of crafting and decoupaging started. Just stuff that back in there. Just because I'm not finished this one. Then, I'm not much of a drinker. I drink, you know, once in a while and on New Year's. But, you know, we have family members that are drinkers. So then you got cool bottles that came out. Like, I don't know where this one even came from. Somebody gave me this one. That you could paint up. Funky bottles. All the different shapes and sizes. Your extra virgin olive oil bottles. All that stuff. Like... once you get addicted to decoupaging, you're saving all kinds of stuff. You have that in your kitchen. And I get my in-laws to bring me up the round Kleenex packages from the States. Okay, so you can still buy those in the States. Did not know that. Didn't know that. But yeah, there's tons of ideas of what you can, like, sell at, like, farmers markets and stuff like that. Like, out of, you know, your recycling. Like, who doesn't have a bunch of glass jars lying around? Okay, so, on to this project, though. Because I do get a little squirrely in talking. So, you have your different options. You can apply a napkin onto a glass jar just with Mod Podge. So, there's no paint on there at all. You can see from the back, there is no paint on there. What you're going to find is he doesn't really pop all that well, right? No, I haven't found any of them really yellow. This one here, again, when we had the napkin club, we did this one. And it hasn't yellowed. It's got a little bit of creaminess here. That's not from the Mod Podge. That was the creamy background of the napkin. But we did that one. Again, it was before COVID. So we're talking, what, 4 years now? I don't even know how long COVID was. It feels like 12 years. But this one here we did way back then too. And it's never yellowed. I've never found any yellowing. Now, the top coats you put on top of them, yes, that can cause yellowing. Even using your epoxy. This was epoxy. It has definitely yellowed. Like, big time yellowed. I still like it. But it depends on the epoxy that you're putting on top, if it's UV resistant or not. It also depends, you know, what's inside the rock, because sometimes that seeps out over time. But I was still happy with it turning yellow. But yeah, sometimes it's the top coat that makes it turn yellow. Lights inside. Oh, sorry. Yep, I do have that too. They came out with these. They came out with these, and you can stick these inside your mason jars. So, do I have that on? There we go. So, I'm not going to unwind it right now, but they just screw onto the top of your mason jar, or this, you know, or a pickle jar, and you could like untwine that, and you could have lights inside of that. So, yeah. It doesn't really pop a whole lot, but if you were filling this up with cotton balls or, you know, even your Kleenex inside something like this, then it does pop. If you watch the reel that I put on the regular page, it's kind of neat because, or hand soap. You can buy the lids now. I haven't got one handy, but you can buy the mason jar lids that have a pump to it, and you can just fill it up with your hand soap, and then you could have your own decorative, you know, a good size one too. Very farmhouse if you had a cow on it, right? And you could have your pump of hand soap. And with the white hand soap in there, it's going to pop. I can show you with just a rag handy. So if you were to put something white inside, whether it's liquid or if you're keeping rice or something like that. You did the one with the bird nest. Love it. Never yellowed. Good, good, good. So if you had something white inside the jar, it's really going to pop. You can see the difference there. The various lids. I have some of them. I don't know if any of them are on the website, but I do have some. If you look in our Michael's, in the florist area is where you'll find a lot of these kind of lids and the pumps and all that kind of stuff. So look in your Hobby Lobby or your Michael's, and ours is kind of in the florist area. There's all the flowers, and then there's where they keep all the chunks of the green and the brown foam to stick that in. Ours is right in that kind of area. I personally have ordered these in bulk because I do a lot of crafting. But they came from, I don't know where, probably China. But they do sell stuff like that in your Michael's or your Hobby Lobby, I'm sure. Okay, so it can be done just on a glass jar. Where did I get that cow? We've had this napkin forever. It's been on the website forever and ever and ever. It was one of my first napkins. I'm looking to see where, if I have one handy here. Just a second, let me grab one. It probably takes forever to find things like this, though, on the website, in all honesty, because there's so many napkins on there. Let's see. Because we had another Highland cow, too, recently that we were using. This isn't the same one. Just let me peek here real quick in the farmhouse bin. There it is. There's our Highland cows. Okay. Actually, I wasn't sure if he's a Highland cow or a bison. I don't know. But we do have both of these on the website right now. So this one is called Highlander. So I guess it is a Highland cow. That's the one that I used for this project here. And then the other, and that is, all 4 squares are the same of that one, Mavis. They're all the same. And then the other Highland cow one that we have on the website is this guy. And he's got the two different, he's got the full body one, and then he's got just the head. So, and this one is called Galloway, Galloway, or Farm Friends. It'd be either of that on the website, probably. At least it better be on the website. It's supposed to be on the website. Any other questions? Okay, so this is just Mod Podge, and then you can either fussy cut out your cow or you can water pen out your cow. If you're going to paint your jar, here's my tips and techniques for that. I'm going to grab a sponge because I'd like to find a soft sponge. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to show you both ways. Let's see. Paintbrush. Sorry, I got a lot going on here. Yes, we have pig napkins too. April, I'll be honest, if you're not ordering wood products from me, when you add, like, even if you add 30 napkins into your cart and you hit the cash, it's going to give you a crazy, stupid price on shipping, sweetie. Canada shipping is outrageous, even on something as simple as a napkin. If you order one napkin from my website, it might charge you a fortune. So if you're just ordering napkins, guys, shoot me a message. I will check and see what the weight is and what it would cost to ship it to you. If I didn't do it through the website, because sometimes it's cheaper. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. So if you're looking for just napkins from me, you might want to shoot me a message and just tell me approximately how many napkins it is. I'll measure it out, and I can let you know. Yeah, and it was $14 for the puppy one. Yeah, it's stupid, stupid prices. So if you're looking for just 1 or 2 napkins, or I don't know what the weight difference would be, but I can ship it like in a regular envelope, and it'll cost me the price of a stamp, right? As opposed to if I was to ship it with the website, it's going to charge you as if it's a big package for some stupid reason. And I apologize for that, but it's totally out of my control. But that's the way around it, is to shoot me a message. And you're better to find me on Messenger than on emails, because I get so much junk emails that it ends up in spam a lot of the time. Okay, so when I use chalk paint on a glass jar, I'm going to show you. If I brush it on like this, it's going to be streaky. It's going to take me probably 3 coats. If I do it with a sponge, and you're going to want to do it like, let this dry and then go one the other way, okay? If you do it with a sponge, it's going to give you a little bit of texture, but you're still going to have texture going the other way as well. You could lightly sand it, but I just don't. I don't mind texture, so I use a makeup sponge. I buy them in the dollar store when I can find them. Sometimes they're hard to find because everybody's painting with them now. I swear nobody's using them for makeup anymore. But that is how I typically do it. And then I let that dry, and then I'll do another coat over top. But like I said, sometimes it takes 3 coats, okay? Now, because it takes so long, I'm going to use this one that I've already painted up, actually a long time ago. I have a few in my cupboard that are already painted that just sit in there, because when I do it, I paint up several jars at a time, and then I just set them up in my craft cupboard so that when the mood strikes, I have one ready. So this one is done and dry. Yeah, it's quite a while ago because I actually painted it a cream color first, and then I painted it white. So I didn't paint the bottom yet, but I'm not too worried about it. So this has no top coat or anything, but it does have a few coats of paint on there. Let's grab a napkin. Actually, let's do the tissue paper this time. Let's grab some of this tissue paper. I find the sponge works better. Sometimes when you're brushing it on, it also depends if there's a lot of grease from your fingers on it, or if it didn't come totally clean, then you might want to take some alcohol and wipe it down. Because sometimes it just kind of like, when you're brushing it on, it's like it's not gripping to it because it's such a slick surface. Sometimes it does well, sometimes it doesn't with the brush. Sponging, I find, always works well, but it does take a few coats. Okay, so with a jar though, using the iron-on method is not the easiest, okay? So let me just cut out a little pattern here or something. Water pen. This is what I call a water pen. Some people call it a water brush. Every company that you buy them from seem to be weird. Instead of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it's the opposite. So it's very confusing. Even though you know it in your head, you still do it the wrong way. And you can fill it up with water. This one's almost empty. And see, again, I turned it the wrong way. And then it's got a synthetic bristle. And then you can use it. If you don't have one of these, you don't need one of these, but they're relatively cheap. You can use just a regular paintbrush. And what you're going to do is you just make sure your tip is wet. You can squeeze it down until it drips. I tend to leave a little puddle and run my bristles through it there too. But you're just going to draw a line around your project. And then you can just tear it away. And what that's going to do is, now you can use a paintbrush too. I don't know if I just said that or not. Sorry. But you can use just a paintbrush with water as well. Just this is handy because it's got the water in it, right? But it's going to give you a nice fringed edge to it, which just kind of helps melt it away into the project. So I'm going to take my jar and grab another one of my brushes. I'm going to grab a little Mod Podge. Any questions, again, just feel free to ask away because I want to make sure everybody's getting their answers. So I'm going to just do a small section. You can tell I want to rub it on with my fingers. You're not supposed to. You're going to grab your saran wrap. Oh, this one's all torn. This must have been the one that was heating up. It just slides better than your finger. And you can kind of work out your wrinkles a little better. And that's done with tissue paper. Isn't that cute? And then I would put a top coat on, working from the center, working out. Now, your other option would be to fussy cut it. So let's move some stuff out of the way here. Excuse me. And I should have probably did it the other way because that would be an easier thing to fussy cut out. But sorry, I got a little wheezing going on there. Okay. Let me just cut out another one here. So fussy cutting is when you take your piece because you're going to hear these terms used by a lot of people, fussy cutting and water cutting or water brushing. So fussy cutting is like when you take your time and you're actually cutting it out on the line of the design. Now, when I do this, I do it sometimes, not a whole lot, because I prefer to just use the water brush. I do prefer to use little snips. That's what they're called. They're not called scissors, they're called snips. These ones are made by Tim Holtz. And they have a little serrated edge to them. A very fine one that seems to grip really nicely. It gives a nice, beautiful cut, as long as you don't cut other things other than like paper with it. Never ever cut wire with them. I love tissue paper too, especially this one. Cheryl sent me a piece of this tissue paper in a mystery box challenge, and I had to have it. As soon as I knew I was doing a decoupage class with you guys, I was like, you guys all need this beautiful tissue paper. So I hope you like Farmhouse, because I totally loved it, and this whole idea of this tissue paper was thanks to Cheryl. And I thought it's a big enough piece that you guys could do lots and lots of different projects with it. So I'm just going to take it over here. I'm going to grab some more Mod Podge. I'm actually going to do it. I want to put my cowl on here somewhere too, so I'm just going to put it even over this design. I'm not too worried about the design. So I'm just going to tap it on. I'm going to avoid running my fingers on it. Now, Cheryl, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous tissue paper. I do have another one set aside for if I do another workshop. That's going to be another gorgeous one. And if I'm going to do another workshop, I'm going to have to do it soon, because I want to get using that tissue paper so badly. It's sitting there and I keep thinking, oh, you should just do a project. And I'm like, no, I ordered in enough to do another workshop. So. Then I'm just going to go from the center and just work my way out. And I'm going to show you how cute it is, even over top of your mason jar design, or this one's some sort of harvest mason jar. But there it is. Even over top of that, it's really cute. Like if you're collaging on your jars. So cute. Okay. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to grab a little paintbrush, and I'm going to show you how to do it with paintbrush. Find a very fine tip paintbrush. Something like this. This is a very cheapy kids watercolor paintbrush. That'll work. But this is another one that was a kids watercolor paintbrush, and I actually cut it down to a very small tip purposely for doing the water brushing before I found the actual water brushes. But I just took scissors and I snipped it down really short. Christmas wrapping paper. You can do it with Christmas wrapping paper depending on the paper. I find if it's a waxy kind of finish to the paper, sometimes it's a little more difficult. It doesn't want to absorb, but it can be done. Can I show how to do it on a basket? I did a class on that already, or I did a video on that already. I don't remember if it's on my regular page or if it's in our group. If I get time at the end of the 3 nights, I'll show you how to do it on a basket, because I did do a basket. And I don't have that around because it's packed away with Easter stuff. But if we have time at the end of our 3rd night, then we can cover that one if you'd like. Oh, yeah, you can. You can. Absolutely. I can show you that in a few minutes. I was just showing you the different cuts, basically, first. Water. So if you have a jar handy, mine's got too much white cloudiness to it, you would just wet your tip of your paintbrush. And you're just going to go around your design. Now I do find, depending on the tip that you've got on your paintbrush, it tends to leave kind of a bigger watermark. I'm sure you guys can, I'm hoping you guys can see. Can you guys make that out okay? Maybe not. When you wet it down, I want to show you with the blue behind. When you wet it down, can you see that okay? You can see how it goes see-through. That's your tear line. So I just hold my finger on the design itself. I make sure my fingernail is touching the edge of the paper, like the edge of the, right now it's the pig's bum or the sheep's bum, as I work around so that it doesn't tear my actual design. Now I'm holding on to his head, the pig's head, the sheep's head. And then I can just pull it out. So it can be done with the brush too, but you want to have a nice thin tip to it. Otherwise it just leaves you a bigger watermark. A little too much there. So I can just kind of tear it away. So just like that. And I'm just going to stick this on here too. Are we dry? Lightly tack it down. The other option that you can do instead of the saran wrap, while I'm thinking of it, is if you have something, typically I like, where's my Mod Podge brush? There it is. This is my favorite brush for pressing stuff down into texture. Okay. But for something that's small like this, I know I'm going to get too much Mod Podge on the end of this and I don't want to wreck my good brushes. So then you could use a chip brush if you really want to and kind of do this. But after you get like too much buildup on your brushes, even if you wash them, after a while they just kind of feel icky and then you can snip off the edges. They are cheap brushes to do it with, but I find saran wrap is just easier for this kind of thing, like little pieces like this. But you can do it with a brush too. There are certain times that I absolutely love the brush, but there's other times that I prefer to, well, honestly, I stick my finger in there and I chance it, but the saran wrap would be the better option. So you could just kind of collage a jar, which I think is really stinking cute. Can you get the snips for fussy cutting on Amazon? Yes, I can drop the link for that one as well. I'm going to shut off my, oh no, I need that iron one more time at the end. I'll make sure to put the link on here after. If I don't get to it tonight, it'll be tomorrow morning. Okay, so let's talk about a bigger piece. So, I'm looking for where I put that other cow napkin that I had out earlier. I don't know where I put it now. I must have dropped it on the floor or something. Okay, well, let's show how to do a bigger, let me dry this real quick. Okay. I'm just seeing what napkins I have handy right beside me here. this on a jar. I don't have that totally painted yet. I should have grabbed one more. Okay. Just let me paint this up real quick. I'm only going to do one coat, but you guys really should do 2 or 3 to get a good coverage on there. Because if you're sticking lights or something inside, you're sneaking in while it's quiet, you're at work. Don't go get in trouble now. It's on the other side behind me. Nope, that's the puppy one. I don't know where I put it. It's okay. I have the one Highland there, but I don't know. I guess there's a whole package there. It's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I prefer sponging, but this is faster. Just because I want to not keep you here all night. I should have grabbed another painted jar. Okay, so we're going to pretend like this is a beautifully 2-coat painted jar. Just because I have one more project I'd like to show you tonight before we quit, if we have time, but we're almost at 2 hours. And my lungs getting a little wheezy. Any questions as I'm drying this up? Are we learning anything? I hope this is helpful for you guys. And then tomorrow night is all about adding texture. It's gonna be, you've never been in a sorority. Okay, so this is basically what the sorority is like. And I named it the sorority because I always thought as a kid, you see in the movies that you wanted to join a sorority, right? And, well, they didn't have a sorority at my college. And if they did, I probably wouldn't have made it in there. But, so I wanted to have a sorority. So, hey, I just made my own. And so we hang out and we craft in the sorority. And someday, I hope that, you know, we can get together in real life and have a crafting party. That would be amazing. Don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it would be amazing. Sandy's never been in one either. Yep. So that's why it got named the sorority instead of, you know, Angie's private group or, you know, the Shabby Chic private group. I just thought it'd be fun to have a sorority. So this is basically what we do in there once a week. It's usually about an hour, hour and a half. Sometimes we're a little longer. It depends how much fun we're having. And we wouldn't be doing this many projects. It's usually 1 project or 2 projects in a night. But this is pretty much how we go, so that we take the time to really answer any questions. And then all the sorority members got to take this course for free. You love the name. Oh, I'm glad. So yeah, we have a lot of fun in the sorority. And then every once in a while, we put a special on, like we've done a certain percentage off orders. 1 month I sent out a gift to everybody that was like, we had fiber paste and 3D paste and some beads for doing a project, which we need to do another project with those beads. I sent out like a whole sample pack. We just try and, you know, do fun stuff quite often. Which napkin do I want to stick on here? Let's go for this one. Okay. So for this, you're going to measure your mason jar, whether it's a small one or a big one, as to how, you know, how much napkin you're going to need. This one here, I'm going to go to the halfway point. It's going to bring me just up and around that top edge. if I'm cutting a large area of the napkin, I just grab my regular ones. Those little ones, I just save them for fussy cutting. So I'm going to cut my napkin in half, save that other half. I just drag my nail back and forth until it separates. It seems to work well for me. Some people like to do the whole, make sure, you know, your spit gets sticky on your fingers and you pull it apart. I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan. It kind of grosses me out. The other option is, of course, the tape, or even just a little bit of Mod Podge. You can take like the tiniest bit of Mod Podge like this and just kind of tap your fingers until it gets really sticky, and then use it to pull your napkin apart like that. Okay? So that's my tips and tricks. I've seen one lady that sits there with a pin and tries to pull it apart, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I wouldn't have the patience for that. But whatever works for you. All right, so let's pretend this is beautifully 2-coated, maybe 3 coats of paint. I'm gonna grab a rag, which happens to be one of my husband's old work shirts. And I'm gonna set this down like this. I'm gonna bunch it up on one side, bunch it up on the other side, and it's just gonna hold my bottle steady for me. I'm going to double check with this. That should work well. So then I'm going to grab my Mod Podge. And we're going to work in sections. So I'm going to start up at the top. And I like to work probably 3 or 4 inches at the most, widthwise this way. Make sure I got a nice coat on. And while it's wet, let me grab some saran wrap here. Have my saran wrap ready. You take your napkin and you kind of eyeball it, okay? Now I already measured, so I know that this is going to come down to my bottom edge here. I'm going to tap it up. But you can't move it, like, see how I keep lifting it? Every time I do that, it does kind of stretch the napkin a little bit. So you don't want to do that too often. Then you're going to set your saran wrap over top, and that's how you smooth it out. Now you are going to get some wrinkles when it comes to up around, you know how where the bottle goes in. It's just inevitable. I don't think there's a way to get away from getting the wrinkles, but you are going to get less wrinkles this way than if you were just to, you know, lay it on and just deal with it. Okay. Now, when you pull it up, you can see you're getting some Mod Podge that comes through. Do not use that sticky side if you have to smooth anything out, okay? Once it's tacky, you don't want to keep touching it. I just tapped it with my heat gun. And I put a little nick in it. You know how when you scuff something and it just kind of slides back a bit? I'm able to take my finger here and my fingernail and I can slide that little tear right back up into place. It just kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it kind of gathered it back when I tapped it there. Okay, so that's the starting of it. I'm going to peel this back on this side. I'm going to grab some more Mod Podge. And I'm going right up. It's okay if you touch the napkin with your Mod Podge. It's better to touch it than to leave any airspace. So I just do like 1 or 2 stripes down. Again, I'm going to bring this back. I should have had left this big. Make sure it's not sticky though. And you're just smoothing it out and kind of stretching it around the bottle. But like I said, I always get wrinkles up at the top. I really don't know how you could possibly avoid it because the shape of the bottle changes. Oh, I thought of something else that we're doing in the sorority that you guys might think is interesting. We're going to decoupage clock. I'm not sure when yet, the exact date, but I have a clock that I want to decoupage. So a lot of the stuff we do in there is found surfaces. You might not be able to find the same surface as me, but it is stuff that you can learn tips and tricks and, you know, apply it to what you can find. And then I love it when you guys share the projects too that you do. That will be one, but then some of them are classes where I'm like, okay, we use this specific and how to get them. Do a bit of both. Any more questions? Or is everybody falling asleep now? Have I gone too long? And I just keep working my way around the bottle. Well, as long as it's interesting. When I listen to myself, it's hard, like when you're not having actual two-way conversation and I can't hear you answer or ask questions. I'm like, oh boy, am I putting them to sleep? But I can honestly say, guys, when I do a whole napkin like this, I always get wrinkles. I don't know how you could possibly avoid it. So if you've got a problem with wrinkles, this is not the way to do it. You'd want to maybe collage them on like we were doing. I'm just going to have to dry this up so I can flip it over. Watching and thinking of whole mason jar requires patience. It does. It really does. I prefer to collage it. We can get pretty close to the same results without having to sit there and be so patient. Like you've seen how quickly I can put it on here. I could have cut out all these roses much faster and put them on there. And it would have been a ton easier than doing the whole and less wrinkles. But it is pretty. But it depends on the napkin. On if you really want to do it this way or if you want to sit there and be, you know, just collaging it like I was doing. The other thing is if you decide to do it this way, Yep, I just use the saran wrap or I use a brush. I prefer the brush, a good stiff bristle brush for that. It gets rid into all those little lines. See how it's just gathering up here? There is no way to avoid that. It's just going to have to be. And if it really bugs you after, you could Mod Podge something else over top of some of this gathering if you really wanted to. I personally would probably go in, after it's all top coated, I would probably go in with a clear wax over this and then a dark wax, and your dark wax is going to settle into all these cracks and make it look more vintage. That's more what I would be doing with this piece, but it's not too often that I do a whole napkin on a jar, just because of the shape of the jars. I don't like that this part is going to come over top and cover up that pretty rose. So I'm just going to take this water pen. I'm just going to hold it up and I'm going to rip that off. And I think I'm going to do the same thing along this edge down here. Like that. You can see how it just kind of blended right together. You can't even tell that that was a seam then. And then up along this edge here. Cat is crying. It must be getting close to bedtime. She wants to be fed. I don't like to leave too much of a straight edge just because it's going to be noticeable. Okay. And then I would make sure that this is all dry. And then I would go around and do a top coat on that after. So this is what we've got. See, it's got some wrinkles though. There's no way I could have avoided it. It does have some wrinkles. That's just how it goes. If you don't want wrinkles, I don't recommend that method. And it bugs me. It bugs me to even show you this and show you that it's got wrinkles. That just, but it is what it is. I'm kind of like, oh, it bugs me that it's got that many wrinkles, but I can make that look good. I'll show you by the end of the lessons that I can make that look good. Now, the other fun thing about the collaging method, though, is, well, let me grab something. I wasn't planning on showing you this, but I will. Where did I put it? Real quick. Where's my... There you go, kitty. Where'd it go? I had it the other day. My stamp. Jeepers creepers. Oh, bummer. I guess I don't have it handy. I thought it was sitting right there. Okay. I wanted to show you how to stamp that. But my stamp has walked away on me. Okay. Well, I'll show you that another night. I can come back to that. Let me write that down. Sorry about that. had it out, ready to go. Okay. We will stamp the collage jar. And then we'll finish those jars up by the end of the week too. So that pretty much covers it. It does. It gives it texture. If you like the wrinkles, it's fine. And I do. Like, it's one of those weird things. I like the wrinkles. If it's me doing it, I personally like it. But when I'm teaching somebody else, I always feel like it has to be perfect. And when I can't get it perfect, it kind of bothers me. But you just need to know that it just can't be. Or at least I can't do it. But the wrinkles, like, they're pretty. And like I said, after I do 3 coats of Mod Podge on this, which I will do this week, like when we're not live, then we can come back and I can show you how I will wax this. But the wax is going to kind of add more texture to that as well. So, but it does bother me to teach you guys how to do something and say, I'm sorry guys, it's just going to be wrinkly. I just feel, I don't know. I feel like I could do better, but I can't. That's how it is. And I don't think anyone could. If you can, I'd love to learn. But that's that. So, any questions? We did, let's make sure I covered everything on my list. If I can find my list again. We did the wet method. We did the dry method. I've lost my list too. Holy Hannah. My space was, I don't know, almost arm's length out. And as far as I can reach in front of me. But now I'm down to this little section. And I don't know where that paper went. I don't know now. So we did the wet method, the iron method, the saran wrap method. We did fussy cutting. We did water brush cutting. We've done collage style on a mason jar. We've done trying to wrap the whole thing on a mason jar. We've talked about painted versus not painted. I think that's it. I think that's all that we did, right? I think so. I can't even find the coasters right now. Oh, there's the coasters. So there was our coasters. Any questions about what we covered tonight? When will the replay be up? As soon as I'm done. I'll be done, and it takes usually like 30 seconds, and then usually the replay is ready there for to watch. Any other questions before we say goodnight tonight? Because we went 2 hours. I hope I didn't make us tired. Tomorrow night, grab some munchies and a drink. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Okay, so for those of you that are just jumping on, there's a few of you that have made it to the very end. Make sure if you got the gold button in your kit to send me a message. I need to know. I think there's 2 people that got gold buttons. I have a prize for you. All right, so I guess everybody's loving it. If you think of anything tonight, you're dreaming away and you wake up and you're like, oh, I wish I would have asked her this, write it down. You'll get your chance to ask me. If you're anything like me, if you don't write it down, you won't remember tomorrow night when we're live. So your husband has dinner ready. I haven't had dinner yet either. It's 10 o'clock here. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're learning lots, and we'll see you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.